basically, there are parallel universes, just like our world, but just infinite variations of it. Picture an acrobat standing on a tightrope. Now, the tightrope is our dimension, and our dimension has rules. You can move forwards or backwards. But what if, right next to our acrobat, there is a flea? Now, the flea can also travel back and forth, just like the acrobat, right?
Right.
Here's where things get really interesting. The flea can also travel this way, along the side of the rope. He can even go underneath the rope.
Upside down.
Yo, no one believes us, but this is the center of weirdness for the entire planet. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Nightmare 365 podcast. On today's episode, we're talking about Stranger Things. That's right, the popular Netflix series, and Other Dimensions. I think they got the ball rolling with talking about Other Dimensions, obviously in season 1, and a little bit in season 2. I wouldn't say so much in season 2, but I'm alongside with my brother G. What's going on today, G?
What's going on?
Not too much. So you excited to talk about this?
How do you feel about this?
I feel great. Yeah. We love that conversation.
I mean, this can go in so many different directions that you can get down a rabbit hole, and
yeah, I'll be honest.
it's like the theory of space and the theory of other dimensions.
This is well outside of my realm of understanding. I'm going to do my best from the stuff that I found and the things that I listened to. I'm kind of upset too because this gentleman who I've been like watching tons of YouTube videos on, I got his book. Well, this is like a kid's book, but
He was on the Joe Rogan podcast, that guy.
yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson, if anybody can see from the book here that I got from the library. But he's actually going to be in Asbury Park this Friday.
You going?
No, but I'm going to a hockey game.
You're going to a hockey game, so
I just found out that Neil deGrasse Tyson was going to be in the area. I'm kind of pissed because I would have just loved to sit on and heard what he had to say because he has a unique story. But he talked a lot about other dimensions, obviously other planets, things like that, what's possible, what's not possible. So we're going to dive into this today. Hopefully we get all the information correct and out there. But I think it's more theories than anything else. So
yep.
I think we're pretty good on that. So let's get this party started. So what's going on, everybody? I want to start off with some weird news. This weird news, I have a couple things for you, G. Actually two of them are on some previous episodes that we did. So the first one I want to mention is about the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
So recently I picked up the Weird NJ. Remember I was like, dude, after talking about the Jersey Devil, I was like, dude, I have to get a subscription to Weird New Jersey. So I picked up the Weird New Jersey issue 49. And what happens to be in the back? A story about the Jersey Devil in Atlantic City. So if you want to take a look at it, basically the story goes, there's a husband and wife traveling down the road and hit something. And the guy basically said, I wasn't sure if it was a deer, what other animal it was. The guy had no clue. Then the cops show up, and the cops were like, this is where it gets weird in the story, in the Weird New Jersey book, or the magazine. The cops say they looked for an animal, they didn't find a deer, and it looks like it hit something, almost like it hit like a brick wall. Like it hit some type of immovable object, a car. Because it was like hit head on, and they got spun around. And they were like, this is so weird. It's in the middle of the night. And the guy basically, these were cops saying in the story, I mean, who knows? They could have just made up this story. But they talked about how they heard moaning and growls on the side of the road, but they didn't see any animal. They even searched. He even said, like one of the cops said, he went back the next day and they looked around and there was no blood, nothing. So it was a unique story that I found in Weird New Jersey. So their magazine, 49, that's pretty cool. Another thing I want to share too, which on next week's episode, we're just going to share some ghost stories that are our favorite ones. And then also just we might read some, I don't know. But next week is all about ghost stories, getting time for Christmas. But I've been reading the book Cops, True Stories of the Paranormal, Ghosts, UFOs, and other stuff. So that was an interesting book. I haven't finished it yet, but it's a book compiled up of police stories, their accounts, the paranormal, obviously going to old buildings, seeing some weird shit, even getting other senses. When they would walk around, they'd be like, I really felt like heavy in this building, or I felt like I was going to get shot. And then I find out later on that, like something could have happened to me. Some creepy stories in that. So that was pretty cool. Another thing I want to mention too is the National Enquirer had a story. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
I was actually going to pick up the magazine just for shits and giggles.
Okay.
We know what the magazine is. It's just like
it's all fake stories.
Yeah, it's a fake story, but it kind of took me back to the JFK episode, part 1 and 2, where they basically said they had evidence where this guy was a paid assassin. He admits to it, and he was dressed up like a cop, like a Dallas cop that day.
Well, there's a new history special coming out too on the History Channel about JFK.
What is it?
It's like they went through the files.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just saw a commercial on it the other day.
So that's pretty cool. So I just saw that too. And then also I've been really diving into the Secure Team 10 videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I actually been following this a little bit before because I really want to get a telescope, but that's beside the point. But if you go to livemeteors.com,
yeah,
they have a live feed, so you could hear like shit that comes in our atmosphere. And the Secure Team 10 did a video on it, and I really was intrigued. So the other night I was actually just on livemeteors.com just listening to some of this stuff, and there was like a big thing that came in to, I guess, our atmosphere that they have and they picked up. It was in the beginning of this, was it December?
Okay.
Or November, one of those times, I forget. But Secure Team 10 did a video on that. That was kind of interesting. So that was a little weird. And they said, usually with the meteors, even like reading their site, you'll hear like a ping as it comes in, but it's like real quick. This one was like real long. So it's like, was something coming or going in our atmosphere? So that was kind of weird. I thought that was kind of cool. So check it out. That's some of the weird news for this week. But let's just jump right into it, man. We got the Stranger Things and Other Dimensions. So did you enjoy the show?
I did.
Did you think it opens up the possibility in your mind that there is other dimensions?
I don't know. I always thought there was like, I never really thought about like other dimensions, but like other paths or, outcomes your life could take.
That's kind of interesting that you say that, because I was talking to the ghost the other day.
Yeah.
Because I've been having some vivid dreams. I even told you
Yeah.
about it last week, after the episode. And yeah, I kind of believe the same thing. I don't know. Are they glimpses into, another dimension, another reality? Are we living in the Matrix? Like if you listen to Elon Musk, he believes we're living in like some type of Matrix. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson kind of mentions that a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's weird.
Yeah, like I was reading one theory. I think it's called the daughter universe theory. It's basically like when you come to like a decision or a crossroad in your life, you go left, like you're on that path, like in real life.
Right.
But in the other universe, you went right.
It's interesting.
So like,
well, even just getting,
it's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird to think about too.
Well, that's where they touch about, obviously in Stranger Things, which I thought was a great series, 1 and 2. I think 1 obviously touches more into that other dimension.
Yeah, one does more of a job with that. And 2's more of like
explaining the stories of the characters more.
Yeah,
more
I guess
80s
so.
reference, but it was definitely a good series, even season 2. But
I love Dustin in season 2. He's phenomenal.
Why do you love him in season 2?
First of all, like he keeps the little, whatever you want to call it, the little demodog. Then he dresses up in hockey pads, which is phenomenal.
That was a good episode. I might have to go back and watch that.
And then he's at Mike's house, right? And Steve comes. And he's like, Steve, are those flowers for Mr. and Mrs.,
Yeah.
whatever? And he's like, no, well, then let's go. Grab your bat. So him and Steve go.
Yeah, it was a fun, season for sure.
I mean, the one episode was like kind of a filler, I thought.
7.
Yeah,
Everybody didn't like that one.
like I thought it was just like a filler. Like, why would you have that in there?
Everybody I talked to was like, "What the hell's the point of this?" I mean, if you're gonna elaborate on that kind of backstory, go with it. But
Yeah,
they give one snippet in the very beginning, and then,
which was kind of cool.
yeah, and then they give like a whole episode, which was like pointless.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
It takes it out of that small town,
yeah,
vibe into like the big city. It's like, yeah, it's stupid.
yeah.
It's like sometimes people say Jason Goes to Manhattan. You're taking it out of Camp Crystal Lake. I don't know. I like when he kicks the boombox in Jason Goes to Manhattan. But anyway, I think it opens up a great conversation into other dimensions, kind of talking about it. Do we have the capability, the possibilities, the technology to do this?
I don't know. Like if you believe in like the Big Bang Theory, right? How everything was created. People believe that space is not like a sphere or donut shape. It's flat, so it goes on endlessly. But at some point, it's going to have to repeat itself, right? Or like there's another theory out there, when the Big Bang happened, it's like a balloon like inflating. And then some parts inflate more and other parts don't. So like...
Yeah,
it really depends on like what you believe in.
Yeah, there's different people from the YouTube videos and the research I did online basically talking about, sometimes they're not sure how the Big Bang, whether it was like from nothing into this big, or it had to be something more to begin with than what we know and understand. Even Einstein's theory of relativity, which he talks about the applications of very big things, gravity, stars, galaxies, and then like there's 2 pillars, I guess, of this basis. The second pillar, which is the quantum mechanics of it all, which describes like all the small stuff. So it's like, all right, we have, the gigantic big things that we can't wrap our head around, and then the really small things. And then other people like dive into it, which I think Neil deGrasse Tyson did a great job. Obviously, all the videos that I watched, from the Joe Rogan to just other science-based platforms that he's been on. I even started watching The Cosmos on Netflix for him, because I've been really kind of interested. He had a great point on one of the, I can't name the video, I'm sorry, I watched too many of them, but he talks about we live in the 4th dimension, like 4-dimensional world. We live in that kind of world. And then he talks about his example, even though it like took me a while and I had to watch it like a couple times, it makes sense, but to my puny brain, it doesn't. He talks about, all right, talking about the dimensions itself. He goes, you never meet somebody at a place unless it was also at a time. And then you also never meet somebody at a time unless it's also at a place, kind of describing the 4 dimensions.
Sure.
And it's like trying to wrap your head around that. Even when I talk to you or the ghost about when you start thinking about, all right, we live on this planet and we think it's so big, but then you look at it from space and then you're like, wow, we're really tiny. And then you look at the universe and you're like, I can't even see us. To try to wrap your head around that, and just
really
keep
can't.
going and going, and you're like, all right, we're always looking for an endpoint.
There's
like,
none.
yeah, and even listening to some of these different theories about dimensions, it's like, all right, they explain like the dimension, like a 2-dimensional plane, where it's like paper, but then like you fold that paper and it's like, here you go. Now we have the 3D, we can go this way, and then you keep going and going.
Yeah.
They believe, I guess, there's 10, 11 dimensions out there.
Yeah.
And there's infinite possibilities on those infinite possibilities of dimensions, which I thought was mind-blowing in itself.
I mean, it's crazy to think about. I mean, you go back and look at, the Stranger Things, right? And like the girl 11 was supposed to be like the CIA, MK Ultra experiments, right? Like mind control, like mind manipulation.
See, that'd be another great episode, man.
And then like she opened up the upside down,
the portal, yeah.
What if that's really possible?
I even like listening to some of these scientists. It seems like the way I'm always coming back to Neil deGrasse Tyson, because he's a lot of the videos that I have watched. He's in a lot of the mainstream media and shows and things like that. And he talks about it. He's like, all right, we know which questions to ask now, but I want to get to the point where I'm asking questions we don't even
No.
can't even comprehend yet.
Sure.
you know, and that's like the level of his thinking. And it's like, holy shit, like trying to think like that, it hurts my head.
Well, it's like, I mean, like, go way back and like look at technology, right? Like 200 years ago.
Just look at 10 years ago.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, look what they had. They didn't have anything. Now, like, try to explain like an iPad to like Benjamin Franklin.
Well, even trying to explain this setup to people, you know, even people that know this technology, it's like, wait, what? You take this and this, and I could play music and I could play songs and all this other shit. Yeah, it's even to like our understanding when we have conversations about it, it's
Yeah, and people are more like smarter than us that have more knowledge about these dimensions.
it's fascinating to me though, like if we live in these other dimensions or we live in the Matrix, and how come we're not as smart as like a Neil deGrasse Tyson or some of these other scientists? Like if we're plugged in, what are we just not getting the hardware? We're not getting the programs fed to us.
I don't know. I always thought about that, and I always thought about like how people have like certain traits and genes that some people don't, right? So like I always equated to some people are just naturally fast runners, right? So you could build yourself up to being fast, but you'll never beat like a Usain Bolt probably.
No.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
Same thing with like how smart he is. Like he's just on another playing field. Like you can read all the books you want, study all you want, but like some people just have a natural knack for or just more developed in certain areas than others.
When like our parents are creating us, it's like, all right, this is the software and the hardware that we're compiling and to make you. It's like we can't fit anything else in there. There's no other hardware or software that we could really download into your brain at this point.
Well, it's like that book, what, The Athletic Gene?
Yeah, I remember reading that.
Remember reading that? Like,
Yeah.
so some people naturally have more abilities than other.
Yeah, it's like people that go to school and I studied it all night, and this person just
Comes up.
fucked around, and then all of a sudden just aces it because
Yeah,
it's
'cause
already embedded in their head that they remember every little thing that somebody, you know, like a detail.
Yeah, like
it
a
is
photographic
interesting.
memory. Yep.
And it's interesting to think of that like on a different dimension, like you were talking about, like even getting back to some of my dreams. It's like some of the dreams are so vivid. I remember waking up in the morning and be like, all right, this happened, these people were in it. And it's interesting to have some people that you haven't talked to in like 10 years.
Yeah.
You haven't even seen. You know, it's like there's been some dreams where like a person from middle school or elementary school was in my dream, and I'm like, I haven't seen them since elementary school. I haven't talked to them since elementary school. And it's like, how the hell were they in my dream?
Yeah,
Like,
see, I often wonder about that, like dreams. Like, I sometimes have dreams that, like, let's say I have a dream tonight. 3 months later, like, I'll be in that dream in real life, though. Like, my dreams don't sometimes come true. Or, like, I'll have moments, like, I'm like, holy crap, like, I dreamt about this, like, a couple weeks ago.
that has happened to me to a point. Like there's some things I remember. I remember driving home from Maine, and there's a house, I guess, like on the side of like a parkway that you can see it. I don't know if it's in Massachusetts, somewhere else.
On the Mass Pike you're talking about, the candle place?
I don't know. I just always remember, maybe I saw it as a little kid and it's been embedded in my head.
Yeah.
But I just always used to have like this weird ass dream. Like there was no way to get out of this house. And I was like, I've been here, or I know where this house is,
Yeah.
but I don't.
Mhm.
It's almost like I was talking to, you know, the ghost the other day too about how, all right, you know how you have the dreams, and this is like correlates with other dimensions, I believe, I don't know, maybe, but where you're home, but you're not home.
Yeah.
It's like you're in your house, but it's not your house.
Yes.
And it's like, all right, am I in another dimension right now? Am I living now? Am I tapped in? Sort of. It's almost like, you know, people see ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right, there's a ghost here. Maybe that's something from another dimension that kind of is slipping through,
Yeah.
you know, like that veil. And it's like, all right, in our dreams, maybe are we slipping through into that veil into another dimension? Like you said, you took the left road. And then what if you took the right road?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
And it's like, all right, well, now you're getting a glimpse of seeing what is the right road. And it's weird to think about.
It
because
is
it's
weird
like,
to think about.
How do I know this is my house when it's not? And why do I feel that way? Why do I have people that were in my life you know, at one point, now in my dream, which how the hell did I even think about them?
Yeah, that happens to me
Is
sometimes.
it just something that's messing up in our brain that like kind of, you know, it's there, right? We just have to download it. Like, cause do you remember anything from when you were like 3? Like, do you,
Very rarely.
yeah, like, I can't even picture like what I looked like or walking around, or I was even thinking about this the other day. You know, obviously we lived right across each other from, you know, in the house. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'm trying to think of like what a typical day of going to school was, but I can't remember like waking up and seeing you, or, you know, waking up and like being like, oh, I had, you know, cereal, and then I you know, gave Greg a fist bump, and then we went to school, and I can't remember that. I don't know why.
You just remember certain things.
But that was like not far, you know, like 10, 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you remember somebody now from middle school that you haven't talked to, but they're in your dream and you see them exactly how they were?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's trippy, isn't it?
I mean, you can talk to always like a person that like deals with like that, like, you know.
Well, if
dreams.
anybody out there or knows anybody who's a dream expert, I would love to. That would be a whole another podcast to do, and an episode, and I think that would be pretty cool to go down that road.
Yeah, well, that would be pretty. I don't know. That would be pretty crazy.
But do you think now going to like space or anything like that with other dimensions, do you think you have to travel up to space, or is it? Do you think it's on the Earth somewhere, and you just have to find that like portal, that wormhole?
I don't know, man. Like, that's weird to think about.
Yeah, I mean, I even saw like you know, there's mentions of string theory, which string theory, you know, we know that there's at least 10 dimensions.
But how do you get to that?
Yeah, it's like, how do you know this?
Yeah, how do you come up with just 10?
But I understand like them explaining it, like the 2D, you know, paper, and then thinking like, you know, we played the clip like an ant, and then can't see the other side, flip it over or punch a hole through it. It's like now they can get to it. Now that's, you know, fold it. It's the 3D, you know, and then you get the 4-dimensional. And then even like Neil deGrasse Tyson with, all right, you can't be at a place without a time. You can't be at a time without a place.
Sure.
And it's like even
yeah,
now,
but isn't time made up? Like,
is that a time that we made? Is that like the construct that we said like this is time? This is what it is.
Yeah.
Could
So
it
maybe
be totally different?
maybe our understanding of time isn't really what time is. You ever think about that? Like, I always think about, I don't know, I always think about like weird crap. And
of course, man, that's why I do this show.
And like I think about like sometimes when I'm laying in bed like alone or like wherever, like you know, I'm alone with my thoughts, like, all right, like what happens after this? Like, why was I created? Like, why am I here? Like, what am I going to do after this? Like, where am I going to go? Like, when you die, like, do you think you die, or you think you go to like another dimension and start over with?
All right.
Like, because that's like a whole nother thing you can get into. Like, don't you feel like some people say like, oh, my past life, I was this.
Yeah.
You think that's another dimension? Like, we're in like, let's say you started like, this is your second dimension, your second life. This is only like
I watched
dimension,
Unsolved Mysteries last night.
Is
season
dimension
1,
2,
season
like
2.
Like, all right, so next time you die and you come back, you're going to be in dimension 3. Like, that's, or do you die and come back and your life replays itself, but you make totally different choices? I was thinking about that too.
Yeah, but why are people afraid to die, but people aren't afraid to go to sleep?
What do you mean?
So you know how people are always afraid to die. You know,
yeah,
I don't want to die.
You're not going to wake up, people think.
Yeah, but we're not afraid to go to sleep. How do you know you're not going to wake up? How do you know, like, last night you went to bed and woke up?
It's because it's so...
How do you know, though? Like,
yeah, because it's so, like, it's routine.
It is.
So, like, dying isn't routine.
Yeah, but, like, when we're maybe dying...
Yep.
I mean, look at it like this. Maybe when we die, our kind of thoughts and stuff still go on. You know what I'm saying? Whereas if, I don't know, it's tough to think about because, all right, if we die, the sense that now it's over, right? But how do we know it's over? Like, even watching videos where people talk about, like, oh, I saw the light. And then, like, doctors explain, like, all right, well, you were technically dead. And like even we talked about on Weird News last week, where the brain still kind of in some cases ticks on.
Sure.
So when people see the light, or like go to the light, the last thing that their senses or sight is seeing is like that operating light over them. Like, could that be it? And then like after that, it's really nothing. Maybe it's just a dream state.
So you're just in dream state for the whole rest of your life.
I don't know. Or we're just dirt, right? So what if we just go back to being dirt, like, and then we're like now taken over by a plant, and we're giving like nutrients to the plant.
No
we
way.
become like something like that.
I don't believe that. I think we go somewhere. I 100% do.
Yeah, but why do we think we are so above everything else that's on this planet?
Because we are.
Yeah, but why? Because we could send an email. Because we could do a podcast show?
No, because of our brains. That's what separates us from everything.
I get it, but then it's also getting to the point where it's like, all right, well, we only use a fraction of our brain,
which is scary. Imagine if you used all of your brain.
What was that movie, Lucy? With Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
She takes, I don't know, she takes this pill.
It's almost like Limitless with Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, but she basically starts using all of her brain and almost becomes like, it's crazy. Watch it. It's pretty good because it's like, wow, if this is true, like you start using your brain, you can like manipulate people and
you probably
do some
could
things. And so maybe that's what people have, like, a smart dude like Neil deGrasse Tyson, or somebody that like a Stephen Hawkins, right? Like you look at his limitations, but then also he's so much more advanced in his thinking than we are.
Yep.
It's like, holy shit. Like, all right, well, he's up here on that scale. And then you look at some like athlete, like a freak athlete, whether it be, pick a sport, and you're like, they're so far above physically than a Stephen Hawking, right? But then it's like he's so far ahead of them mentally. Like how come there's no good balance? Or how come
I'm sure there is.
How come we haven't figured that out though? Like how come you couldn't? I mean, maybe that's where all the gene manipulation things have been coming in recently, where that now they can basically say like, oh, well, you're not going to get cancer, you're not going to get this, like, all right, well, you have bad eyesight, we're going to correct that, make a little switch.
Yep.
So it's pretty interesting to think about that too. Like, is that now getting information from other dimensions, or is that just like what we're learning here?
I think that's just what we're learning here.
Can you say the same thing almost like aliens? Do you think like aliens come from other dimensions?
I don't think so. I think people know by now, like I believe in aliens. And if you look at the sheer numbers and statistics of like possibilities and how many planets, like there's an infinite possibility that there's life on other planets. It may not look like me and you, or maybe so much more advanced than me and you.
Right.
So maybe they can switch dimensions.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
Because if they can get here from wherever they came from, I'm sure they have the technology to switch dimensions.
Yeah,
but then would that dimension affect, let's say, would dimension 10 affect our dimension? You ever think about that? Like if you go back to, another movie, Back to the Future, the space-time continuum and everything like that. Like if you went back in time and you changed just like one detail, how much would change in
but is that changing in
history? In
our dimension, or is that changing now across the board? Because there was another movie too. Crap. I can't think of it. It was an old movie. I think it was in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, where he would go to each dimension and take himself. And the more he takes himself or kills the other self.
Mm-hmm. Oh, with Bruce Willis?
It wasn't with Bruce Willis. It was like he goes...
Not Hopper.
Maybe it was Bruce. I don't know. But it was Jason Statham, I think, was in it. He would go to other dimensions and basically kill himself, and he would become stronger in that dimension. And they had to stop him from doing that. It was crazy. It was pretty interesting.
And then, like, he had to kill him, his older self had to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Bruce Willis movie.
You sure?
Yeah. It was, I'll tell you right now, Looper. This is the one you're talking about?
No. It was older than that. I haven't seen Looper. Maybe I should go and check that too.
Time travel exists, but it's only available to those that means pay for it on the black market.
Yeah, that was. I remember the trailer for that, but that wasn't it.
Okay.
I remember also like Time Cop is another movie about that. Like we're jumping in time. Like, is time relevant to all this dimension stuff, or is it something that's?
I mean, our understanding of time, I think, yeah.
Do you think? Yeah, it's interesting to think that like other dimensions, even like when you say like going to sleep and you're thinking about this, and does it affect? You know, maybe it doesn't affect, or maybe the other dimensions are your life choices, right? So say like you said, like I come to a road and I have to pick job A or B. I went with A. Well,
Your other person.
you just
B.
switched off now to another dimension. You did.
Mhm.
And you're living that dimension. You don't know that like you're not living in another dimension if you chose B. You just know like this is reality to me, and this is reality A to me because I chose this job. But if I chose B, that would be a totally different reality that I would be living in. That would be a totally different dimension.
I always think about that. Like, what's probably one of the biggest decisions you made in your life? You think?
Life decisions?
Yeah, like that altered your life. Good way or bad way?
I mean, there's been so many. Like, I wouldn't say like.
Just pick one.
I guess going to school, right?
Okay.
Like, when I went to college, it
Yep.
was like I was going to go either to Salem State
Yep.
because I loved Halloween,
Yep.
and I was going to go up there, but they didn't accept a lot of my credits of, you know.
Just picture like you went there.
Well,
How different do you think your life would have been? Because like, what if you liked it so much up there, you stayed up there. You know, like you got a job in Boston, like you're up in Boston now. Like you would not have like.
I wouldn't have some of the friends I have now.
Yeah, some of the
We wouldn't
friends.
be doing this podcast right now. It'd be totally different.
Yeah, so your life would be totally different.
But it may have not been different. Maybe it would have changed your course of history because I would have been up there.
Correct.
Closer to you to college. Maybe we would have figured out like, dude, this is pretty sweet. Let's stay up here and make something. We could be doing this podcast up there.
Yes, but like it wouldn't be here.
Sure, it wouldn't be in the studio. And
So I always think about that. Like, let's say I took job A or it didn't take job B. Like, where would I be? What would I be doing? Like, your life would totally change.
I had this conversation with my buddy Anthony too, where I was talking about like, all right, we have such I would say a connection, right? Like me and my buddy. Even like the first time we met in college, it was like, holy shit, we're like similar. We like the same stuff. You know, like there was always that bond where it was like, all right, I don't have to talk to you in like, 3 weeks, a year. But when we hang out or talk, it's like right where we left off.
Sure.
And it's like, I even mentioned that to him one time. I was like, dude, I was so close to not coming here. You know, there was like a change where it happened with one of our other friends where it was like, he picked the college that I ended up going to.
Yeah.
And it was like, yo, apply. And I didn't even think about applying to the school. And it's like, all right, I got in. They accepted pretty much all my credits.
So you think you would have met him along the lines and...
Well, that's what I think about. Like, was I destined to meet him at some point, or did we cross paths? Because I always wonder that too.
Do you believe in destiny? Do you believe in like are you superstitious in that way? Like, all right, if I do this, this will happen, or if,
I used to think that,
and you don't anymore.
Not to say I don't anymore. It's almost like I don't know if it's meant to be. I guess if it's meant to be, because there's been tons of points in my life where we did something and it's like, oh, like I wish I did this a little differently to get that back, and then somehow it would come back into my life, and I'd be like, that's really weird. And then other times it's like, all right, if I chose Salem State and I loved it so much, I'm like, shit, I love witches, I love Halloween, it's right there, I'm in the thick of things, I could have been doing something totally different. And then it's like, all right, yeah, would I have met this other person just from destiny? Or maybe I wasn't destined even to think about going there, Because I remember, like, everything was so planned out. We went up to Maine that year. We went, and I remember Mom and Dad, I think you stayed up at the cabin.
Yep.
And then we were like, all right, we're going to go look at, the campus. We're going to, make sure everything checks out. We even, like, Mom even met a lady in a store. She's like, oh, I'm renting a house out right around the corner. Come check it out. We went to check it out, and it was like perfect. And I was already talking to people online, like findroommates.com or whatever at the time. coming into the school too, that I told them like, all right, these other two guys are like, here you go, we have this house. It was like all planned out. And then like on the ride back, I'm thinking like, oh man, I'm already behind in school because I fucked around too much and like I experimented with different classes.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, all right, they're only taking how many credits? Shit, like I don't know, but everything was like signed and ready to go on the dotted line.
You pussy.
I didn't pull the trigger. Yeah, but I would have been like 2 years behind.
So who cares, man?
More money.
Who cares?
Well, looking back on it, maybe I wouldn't have cared, but like at the time, I was like,
well, that's like another thing. Like looking back on your life, like things that like seem to matter like then, like don't. Like imagine going through high school right now.
Yeah, well, we talk about this all the time too.
Love that. I would love it.
We fucked around so much, and everybody, you're immature, you're this and that. It's like, who gives a fuck? Like it didn't change anything, because it wasn't like I'm on this path where like I have to get straight A's. I'm going to like college and being a Neil deGrasse Tyson. Nope. I'm just gonna do the average Joe Schmo stuff. Start a podcast, do my other things, do hobbies, and enjoy life.
That's like another thing too. Like if you could look in the future and see what's like big and like what. Imagine like you got in like to podcasts like before podcasts weren't like a big thing.
Yeah, but would you be as popular? Or, they would just be, people would be like, oh, this is all right. But that's the thing. You don't know. And it's like, I also equate it now. Like, why do we put so much pressure on ourselves now to do certain things? Because we do. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I have to do this. Why? Like you just told me, like looking back on it, you might have done things differently in high school.
I don't think I would have done things differently, but I wouldn't have cared as much as about certain crap.
All right, so why do you care about certain crap nowadays? When you're gonna look back in another 10 years, 10 years from now,
you don't know that though.
You're gonna look back and be like, why the fuck did I care about that?
You don't know. Maybe
no,
it was awesome.
That's true. Like you don't know, but like looking at that moment, it was the right decision at that moment to make. Mm-hmm. And yes, maybe now I'm living in another dimension because of that decision. And I might not be here, or I could have a family, I might have kids by now. I would have had, just name a bunch of things that you don't have now that you might have in that universe. So,
would you? All right, let me ask you. This question.
Be cool. It would be cool for me to go back and like experience that timeline in that dimension, in that time.
So,
reality.
If you could look at other dimensions, would you look at like? Let's say in Dimension 1, you had a family and kids. Dimension 2, you were single living up in Salem. Dimension 3, you were like maybe like the hotel manager of the Stanley Hotel. Like, would you want to go see?
Yeah, I would love to see all that.
It's like that movie. What's that movie? Family Man.
Yeah.
With Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Right. Like where that one decision he made like altered his life.
Yeah, so are those dimensions and we don't even think about it and we don't even know?
Maybe.
Or, we think of dimensions like space and time and so far away that we have to go through like a wormhole to get to.
You may.
That's the trippy thing about this. And that's where like if you open up this rabbit hole to jump through.
Or like what if like you were like 11 in Stranger Things, you could just open up a dimension right here in the wall and go through.
It'd be creepy.
All right, like let's say you could do that. Would you go through?
I'd be tempted, sure. I'm a curious person, so I would.
What if you couldn't get back to this dimension? You were stuck in that dimension.
That would suck, but that's the chance you take. That's like the chance you take, like, all right, I'm not going to this school. I'm going here.
So do you think, like, let me ask you this question now. The missing 411 cases?
Did they go through like a wormhole or like another dimension?
Yep.
Possible.
Because, like, you look at some of those missing persons cases, right? Like, they can't find a trace of them.
Dude, that's a whole nother...
So, like, just think about that, man. What if, like, they, like, stumbled upon something?
I have to look up that book because I requested it at the library over here.
So, what if they stumbled upon something and just got sucked into another dimension? Like a time warp or dimension opened up and they got sucked in. That's why they can't find any of them.
It's not out of the possibility. I mean, I would say never, right? With anything. And I try to keep an open mind. So it's possible. And it's weird. Because the movie that we watched, what was that? It was a documentary on the missing 411 with the guy.
Yes.
And where they found the kid's
shoe?
Clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like clothing. It wasn't really ripped up.
Nope.
And it was like in pristine condition like a year later.
Yeah, a year later.
And everybody was saying they were in that area. They were in that zone, like looking.
Yeah.
And then like 2 random people happen to come across it. And it really does look like a shoe has not been sitting in the wilderness for over a year.
Yeah, with the snow and ice and
With
rain
everything.
and
It's
all
like
the
it
elements.
looked like it was on his feet that day. Like maybe he did get sucked in, or
And
maybe
then
it was aliens. I don't know.
Well, that's another possibility.
And it's possible that aliens are coming from another dimension. They have this portal that they can like step into.
I mean, many people believe that.
They could take their ship and come right through.
Imagine that.
Yeah, but the thing I don't get about that, and again, I try to keep an open mind about all this stuff, but I look at it and say, how come they're always in certain places, but they're never like, it doesn't land on the front lawn right here, or it's not like a big mass sighting?
Maybe it did.
And
You don't. I'm just saying you don't know.
And what do they come out like Will Smith does? You know, zapped us with that like memory erasing technology.
I'm sure they have that.
If they can come to this planet.
Hell yeah.
But they also make a great point too. It's like, all right, picture just being like 1% better, you know, like chimps, right?
Sure.
Where they're sitting there throwing feces at each other. We're like 1% better than them, right? We have a better understanding. If aliens are 1% better than us and they're looking at us like, what the hell they're doing? You know, they just consume shit. They walk around, they're on their phones and they have.
Well, I think people are becoming dumber now because of the phones.
I think in a way they are. And I think in a way we're more, I don't want to say educated because we're educated on certain things.
Well, yeah, because you can look up something in your phone. It takes 5 seconds.
That's what I love about it. Like, I just remember going through school back then and be like, oh, I have to go to the library and do research and do this.
Yeah,
and
you gotta look through the...
I can't even go on, like, line. Because just think in 1997, like, AOL came out and, like, I'm able to chat with my friends, you know, from...
I remember going to the library. You have to look through the library cards, like, to actually find the book.
I remember all that. I remember, like, because I was transitioning from middle school to high school when, like, AOL came out. It's AOL. Like, oh my God, yeah, I'm talking to my friends who are, like, down the street, or it was cool. But we never thought about, like, oh, let me look up this, or let me start a podcast. Because we didn't, like Neil deGrasse Tyson said, we didn't know the questions to ask at that moment.
Correct. And
maybe we will have the questions another 10 years from now to ask. All right, the dimensions are X, Y, and Z that we know. Dude, it's trippy. I mean, what are some other thoughts that you have as far as like thinking about when you're alone? Like when you leave here, are you going to be thinking?
That's like I told you, like the biggest thing I think about is like why, I don't know, like
why are we here?
But
that's the age-old question.
No, not why are we here. Like it's a weird, I don't even know how to explain it sometimes. Like not why are we here? Like my consciousness, right? Like I think like maybe everyone thinks like this, I don't know, but this is like weird. But like it's very hard to explain.
Just explain it slowly and think about, you know, like how
it freaks me out when I think about it.
Yeah, but
it freaks me out.
Why?
Because like
none of this stuff
it freaks me out because here's the deal. Like,
I'll tell you
where was I before this, and where am I going to be after this? So like,
yeah, but do you have any? All right, like getting back to the question, do you have any memory of like living in the old house where we were born?
Yes.
Like, do you have a memory? Say 2 years old. Do you remember anything from 2 years old?
I'm probably. Because I remember like where your room was, where mom and dad's room was.
But you remember that
and I
later
remember
on.
like doing stuff like in your room. Like I remember where you had your bed. You came into your room, you looked to your right, and your bed was right there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And I remember like hiding like either in that corner or like behind your bed. And I remember you had like the toy shelf like by the foot of your bed, like next to that wall. Remember that?
That was earlier on, yeah, because I remember having like the clothes, and I remember having a radio there, and I thought like the radio was the sweetest thing in the world.
I remember coming up like the stairs, and I remember that closet being there, and I remember sitting in that closet looking out that window like at the lightning storms.
That was a cool closet, I do remember. Yeah, but see, now you can't equate that to a time though. Like you remember these things, like maybe they were like the last year that we lived there,
maybe
before we moved.
I remember jumping into the pool when I wasn't supposed to.
Dude, I remember a lot of things from that house, but I'm saying like it's getting back to that point, like even 10 years ago, or even, like waking up on a school day and thinking about, oh, where's G? Like what he's in the bathroom now. I'm gonna go eat, and then like I don't have a visual of that, but you have these memories that stand out from the other house.
Yeah.
And it's like,
but like it's weird. Like when I stop and think about it, like it's very weird.
no, it is.
It's because like I'm like, okay,
where
like,
were you before this?
Yes.
You weren't. Yeah, but you don't know. You don't have any memory of it.
No.
So you're probably not going to have a memory after this.
Yeah, but see, that's the weird thing about it. Like, I know I was somewhere before I was here.
What do you mean?
I feel like I was somewhere before.
Like
I was
you're
here.
saying you were in another time, another period.
Yep.
Like you fought in the Civil War.
You don't.
Or
I don't know.
Something like that.
Maybe.
Ah, dude. Yeah, I mean, when
Just think about that.
I try to, and I'm like, all right, why do I like the things I like? Why do I like Halloween? Was it something that I knew from a past life?
Or why are you afraid of some of the things you're afraid of? Like, I always think about that, too.
Yeah,
like,
but could that be genetics, like passed down? Like they prove stuff that, if you shock the mice, right? And then their kids, like when they hear that noise of the shock, they get like freaked out. Like, so did our parents pass down some of the stuff that they like from us? And
maybe.
maybe we got tidbits of that?
Maybe.
Maybe that's why siblings are kind of similar. Like we have some of the same similarities in what we like. We like sports. We like to be active. We like certain holidays. We hate other ones. We kind of have the same view on a lot of things.
I don't know, man. It's a rabbit hole to get down.
It is, but it's a fun rabbit hole, I think. And even thinking about just, all right, dimensions, it's time, places, it's objects. It's right here in front of us. This is it. Mm-hmm. Maybe like we have to change it in some aspect. Or maybe that's the whole thing with like the Matrix things or the Mandela effect, where it's like something in that Matrix or a dimension was changed, or we're in another dimension and, they fucked up one thing and now it's changed in our dimension.
Like what if we're like the opposite dimension? You ever think about that?
Like opposite, like we're the upside down?
Correct. Think about that for a second. Just let that sink in there.
Yeah, but are we the good upside down, or are we a bad upside down, or is it just different?
It's just different.
So flip it over.
There's two dudes right now
doing what we're doing.
Correct.
See, that's trippy. Like thinking about that, thinking like if we just drilled straight down right now where we're standing, and on the opposite side is just two dudes like us, look like us, talk like us.
Yep.
A little different, but just having this conversation.
Yep.
That's trippy to think about. Well, do you think like, all right, like the whole thing where we took a picture of you up in Salem,
mm-hmm.
where the whole bellhop, where you looked very similar to that. Do you have any recollection of that?
See, it's weird, man. Like, cause I could picture certain shit. Like, if you think about something for you
could
come up with stuff in your mind.
You could. Maybe it's just, I don't know. Is another dimension really the Matrix? We're really plugged in?
I don't think so. I don't think about that.
You don't think it's that? You just think it's like there's other... So is there another world? Like, is there a copy of this world somewhere?
Yep.
It's just in a different galaxy.
Yeah.
And we have to get through it through space or a wormhole or tapping in, like they said. Like, fold the paper, put the hole. See, now imagine if you said that stuff in like, high school.
You'd be fucking nuts.
No, like, when they were talking about, like, what's the closest point or whatever between A and B?
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, a straight line. What if you're like, no, well, I'm going to fold the paper and then I'm going to poke a hole. That's a straight line right there. Like, but it's not on the test. It's like...
You would fail because that's outside the box. Well, that's like when they say, like, one of the IQ test. Like the dots.
Yeah.
You have to connect all the dots without...
Picking up your pencil?
Yeah. And the only way to do that is go outside the lines.
Yeah. And people can't do it.
Yeah. People, like...
Because we've been programmed. So maybe we're just programmed.
Like,
and
you got to think about... Like he says, like... You got to ask questions that you don't even know what to ask.
And that's the trippy part.
Like, why do you have those dreams?
I don't know. I mean, some of them are.
You got to think about like, all right, like what it, like what are they?
That's why I would love to talk to a dream expert, even though I don't think they have the answers. I would
They
like
would just open up your perspective.
Yeah, I would like a different perspective or see where they're coming from, because I don't necessarily believe.
Would you reach out to the people that are in your dream?
I mean, I don't know if I. Why? Like, what's the point? Like, hey, do you have this dream?
Maybe they did. You ever think about that?
Well, if they're listening, I could give their names out.
Shout them out.
No, I'm not gonna do that. But
What if they had the same exact dream you did, or like it dreamt about you?
if anybody has dreamt about me or they knew me in the past and then you had a dream about me, let me know. I'm curious to know what it is. And if you did, when you're reaching out, all of our information, right? Give me an email, matt@nightmare365.com. And if they had a dream, if they're watching it, which I'm sure they're not, but if they had this dream, I was in it, I would like to hear about it, because then it's like, all right, now I could analyze myself or what I was thinking. Because I don't want to like contaminate it either.
Let me ask you this question: do you think you could be connected to people in their dreams? You ever think about that? Like I thought about that a couple times. Like, all right, so let's say me and you go to sleep tonight, right?
All right,
You're thinking about like me and you playing, let's say hockey,
all right.
right? We don't know, like we're sleeping obviously in different houses. Like you're dreaming like we're playing hockey.
Yeah, we're like 30 miles away from each other.
And I'm dreaming we're playing hockey. Like, are we connected somehow? In like dream space?
Possible. Or is it possible that you're just getting a glimpse of another dimension?
See, that's why like the MK Ultra experiments like are fascinating to me. Like the CIA mind control and like mind like manipulation experiments are
Well, yeah, we proved like it is proven. You know, like when you get hypnotized, like you're kind of you let loose, like you let down your guard, or you know, the teacher says, no, never go outside the box, color inside the lines, do this and that. And it's like you get programmed that way. And it's like, well, the way you have to do it is just be nuts about it. You know, like just go outside the box, color outside the lines, just do it. Like think of questions that you don't even know to ask yet. And try to figure out that stuff.
Let me ask you this. What do you think is going to be in season 3 of Stranger Things?
Well, they're going to do 4 seasons, supposedly.
Yes.
So they're going to have to wrap it up eventually.
But what do you think is going to happen in season 3? Because they shut down the lab.
I don't know. I
And
don't know
then
what
at
else
the
is there
end-
to really do.
At the end, you see the upside down. You see that big monster. Because that big monster really, like, it was throughout the whole second season. But, like, you never really saw that big monster thing.
Yeah, and they never explained anything. It was more about, like, the kids, which that's why I thought
Dustin
it was good. But
awesome.
I don't know. Maybe they'll talk about that. Maybe they'll go into other dimensions. Maybe they'll go back to that. Maybe they'll realize, like, oh, we're not going to talk about 1 through 10, you know, the people that exist, or, you know, like the number 8,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like that was their number, right? 8.
What?
But the other girl from episode 7,
I
where
don't
they
know.
just focused on the other, like, child, prodigy, whatever you want to call them. But I don't know, man. I would like to do, like, the more dimensions, because it is trippy to me, and it does get me thinking, and, like, just having conversations with you or just anybody else talking about that, it does make my brain hurt a little bit, but it also just fascinates me from the standpoint, like, what else is out there?
Yeah. Just think about how small we are.
We are.
People don't realize, like, or people don't stop and think about that.
Stop and think about just how small and insignificant we really are.
In space, yes.
We are. And in time. Like, what
Like,
is
there's a
time?
good video, like
why?
YouTube, like, how small we are in space.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Where
It's
it just
weird.
goes out from, like, us,
Yeah.
like, the Earth, past the moon.
Yeah, keeps going and going. And then until you just don't know and you can't see anymore. You're just like,
And then,
what?
like, all the different galaxies, and, like, you're like, which shit?
Yeah, it trips
and
me out too.
universes.
Well, same thing with time, like, right? If time is just something we made up and we're in this dimension, right? We're in the, like, they talk about,
Mhm.
right? In just string theory, other dimensions, where it's like, all right, we're living on this plane. Even though we're in a 4-dimensional world, it's like, how come then we can't go back into time? Why can't we, like, fold the paper in ourselves and go back? Why
Like-
can't we hit, like, rewind?
Did you watch the YouTube video, Time Travel is Possible? Like, the five like, photos that prove time travel?
Yeah, I think I seen it a while ago where like the guy's standing in the crowd.
He has a watch.
Yeah,
He has like a T-shirt on. He doesn't fit.
I know, and there's been plenty of cases where people said they went back to the Gettysburg Address or stuff like that. It's like, I don't know. That's a whole nother topic too that we could talk about.
But like, so like, I always think about like that. So like, what if time travel is not possible right now, but it will be in the future?
Yeah, it's like, all right, we know to ask question 1 and 2, but question 4 is the one we know to ask in the future for time travel.
That's like the whole like ancient aliens theory, right? Like, people think like we're really the aliens going back in time to set up like this.
Yeah, my buddy believes that.
To set up like
we
this
talked about
world
it too. He was always like, yeah, aliens are just us in the future. We're just pushing ourselves along a little bit.
What if that's true?
It's possible. It's something, if that's true, it's like creepy. You know, like I remember even seeing that thing too, with like getting back to the moon landing, where it's like if you look at Neil Armstrong's name backwards, what does it spell? Alien. You know, just to look at Neil A. backwards alien, it's like, ooh, you know, it's like we really are the aliens. And it is true. Like if you look at it, it's like we're going to another place, whether it's the moon or whether it's Mars. We really are the aliens coming in. It's like when you know they talk about illegal aliens coming in. It's like they are coming to a different space, different time, different location. Yeah, we really are. I don't know, but it's a question that's going to eat everybody. And I don't know, what is some other people's opinions? I would love to hear from. I mean, contact us. All our contact information is out there. It's on nightmare365.com. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
No.
Anything else that trips you out?
No.
Anything else that, yeah, because these dimension things, I mean, you could talk about it and just try to explain it. I can't explain it. That's why I didn't even try to on this episode. I just recommend I'll put stuff in the links. Do you think we should start putting in the links too of the show, like the weird news that we find?
Yeah, the stuff that we watched, yes.
Yeah, so I think if people are watching this stuff, just look on, you know, from the show notes. I'll start posting all the weird news we talk about so you can find links. Some of the stuff, just the articles or just like a YouTube video explaining these other dimensions. I think that would be kind of good because that's well over my head of understanding or trying to explain and teach anybody else about. So, but thanks everybody for tuning into today's episode. And if you have information about other dimensions, you have information about other worlds, or even a dream expert, let us know. All our contact information is at nightmare365.com. Yep. And give us a review on iTunes. That helps us out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel because we do live podcast every week.
What's our YouTube channel?
It's Nightmare365, man.
Boom!
Check it out. So
follow it.
Do that. Follow, subscribe, give us a review. Let us know what you think. Share the mail with us. And next week we are talking about ghost stories. So we're going to share some ghost stories that we enjoy. All right?
The Frighteners.
The Frighteners, everything like that. So until next time, everybody, stay spooky.
Later.